Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 9 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Nicholas Doetkott himself. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be wondering, why is there a random guy with glasses and a beard wearing twin stuff in this call too? Well, that's the one and only Caleb Sipe. He's got the best beard game in the earth. If you want him to read you a bedtime story, he'll read you a bedtime story with a deep voice. And he's also a big Twins fan. So we're going to do it a little bit different for the first one. I'm not going to do it for like this for the rest of them. But we're going to do our regular show, talk about some topics with Caleb here. And then after that, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Twins and a preview of their last season and looking forward to next season. Sorry, that was a tough sentence to say. But nonetheless, we're ready to go. Caleb, how are you doing today?
Doing great. I was just pulling up some bedtime stories if you wanted them.
You know what? I'm going to pass for now, but when I go to bed in a few hours, I'll hit you up on that.
Sounds good. You got my Snapchat.
It's like 11 o'clock right now, so I could use one. But,
Yeah, Nick's a night owl. But anyways, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. Not as big of a sports week as there was last week. We had a ton to talk about then, but still some pretty noticeable stuff. So we're just gonna dive right into it here. So we're gonna start with the New York Mets. They have a new manager. Well, you're probably wondering, oh, wasn't it Carlos Beltran? Well, it was until about a couple weeks ago when he decided to step down because of the whole Houston Astros cheating scandal. Him being a main part of that. They signed Luis Rojas to be the manager. We're going to start with Nick on this one. First off, do you like this move from the Mets?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I don't really know what to think of it. It's pretty much just their backup plan. Like, if they really wanted Rojas to be their manager, he would have been, a month ago. But, I mean, I think they figured, well, we don't got much time left for the season. They just hired, in somebody who was already in the organization. And Rojas, he's been there already. So, I mean, I guess I don't mind the signing or the promotion, I mean.
Caleb, what about you? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think it was, like you're saying, it's kind of a last minute. We didn't have anybody else in mind, so let's take a guy who's been with us for a couple of years. It looks like Pete Alonso lobbied for them to sign him. So at least he has the support of some of the players. And I'm seeing that he doesn't want to commit to Edwin Diaz as the closer, so that's always a good sign.
Smart man.
Yeah, smart man there. Edwin Diaz definitely has been struggling since he went there. I will say this, though, as Caleb's got his chocolate milk there. I will say this. I am a fan of it for this reason, is that there is a lot of big-time players on the Mets right now that he actually, when he was a manager in the Mets minor league system, he managed them. So Jacob deGrom was one. Pete Alonso was one. I know there's a number of other guys I know I'm missing that he also managed as well.
Tim Tebow. Yeah, you missed Tim Tebow.
Married.
The GOAT?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hotter wife than I'll ever have.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, I think for that matter, I really like it. I was going on Twitter, kind of just seeing what Mets players were saying, and kind of like you guys were saying, they had a lot of good things to say about him. Marcus Stroman, also who didn't come up with the Mets, was also a huge proponent of him too. He was their quality control manager, which I didn't know what that meant at first, but essentially that's the guy who is like intertwined with like the statistics and numbers part of the game and then brings them into like the actual gameplay and stuff is kind of how I interpreted it. So it should be interesting to see how he does. I think they could be really good this year. They had 86 wins last season. And we'll have to see how they do. Obviously, the Mets always find a way to screw things up, but we'll have to see what happens at the end of the season.
They'll get like second or third in their division. They'll lose to the Yankees in the Subway Series. They'll have some, pitcher get injured, and then they'll fire the manager anyways. It's the Mets every year. It don't matter who's their manager.
Yeah, you really hate to see it. You really do. So good for the Mets. Hopefully they got their guy. Obviously, losing a guy like Carlos Beltran is not a good thing by any means. So hopefully they found their guy. The Hall of Fame announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Caleb and I are very pumped. Caleb, I'm a big time Rockies fan, as you know. Caleb also a supporter of the Rockies as well too, and Larry Walker and Derek Jeter both made it to the Hall of Fame. Now, let me ask you guys this. In your opinions, which one is more egregious? The fact that Derek Jeter only needed one vote to become unanimous, or the fact that it took Larry Walker 10 years to get into the Hall of Fame?
Larry Walker, for sure.
Agreed.
Okay, well, I'm glad we all agree with that one because I would have had to kick someone off if we didn't. But nonetheless, Larry Walker, yeah, Derek Jeter is a Hall of Famer, don't get me wrong, okay? But should he be dang near unanimous? Not really. Look at a lot of the stats. Nick and I, we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
Rings should not be a deciding factor when you're trying to tell the greatness between two players. Now, in some cases, sure. Some cases that's absolutely fine. But Derek Jeter and Larry Walker, Derek Jeter was good. I don't think he was a unanimous Hall of Famer good. What do you guys think about that? Caleb, start with you on this one.
Oh, I mean, the main argument I've seen is that he wasn't even the best shortstop on his team with the Yankees because they had Alex Rodriguez as well, who they did move to third base, but you're overshadowed by a guy on your own team, and you're going to tell me that guy should still be unanimous? No.
Yeah. Nick?
I mean, my whole take on it, should Jeter be unanimous? The way voting's been for how long? No. But first of all, Hall of Fame voting in general is just dumb. Like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., they all should have been unanimous. But they weren't because the baseball writers are just old, stubborn, and stupid. But being that those guys aren't unanimous, then no, Jeter shouldn't be. Because Jeter's not even in the same playing field as those guys. I don't care what anybody says. Jeter's not that good. That doesn't mean I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. He is. But he's the most overrated. He's one of the most, if not the most overrated baseball player in the history of the MLB. Everybody, these shortstops in 11th grade, they do that little jump throw from short and say, Jeter. Like Ivan used to do it. Well, he's not even that good of a defensive player. He made one play, and then that flip play, I'll give it to him, was an amazing play. But he's not a very good defender. He's not always known for his defense. Well, he wasn't even a very good defender. Like Caleb said, he wasn't even the best shortstop on his team. But let's just take Larry Walker against him, for instance. Larry Walker's got a higher career WAR. He's got more home runs. He's got a higher career batting average, more on base percentage, more Gold Gloves. The only thing Jeter has is hits and stolen bases. And yeah, Jeter's got the World Series rings, but baseball is the ultimate team sport. It is the ultimate team sport. So rings should be valued as the least amount in baseball compared to all of them. And he wasn't the best player on his team in any singular season he even played, I don't think. Whether it was A-Rod better than him or even, I know he's a closer, but Mariano, even towards the end, Cano was better than him.
Yeah.
No. So in long story short, no, he shouldn't have been unanimous if those other guys weren't, because Jeter's nowhere close to them.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with that. I just think a lot of times people value rings in baseball a lot more than they should. And Larry Walker played on the team with the Montreal Expos. He played with the Colorado Rockies, and he played with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, they had some successful seasons here and there, but were they ever on, the New York Yankees type team that have great players and were winning ships every year? Absolutely not. And then, Larry Walker said it perfectly. And then, Caleb, I'm sure you've seen this. Nick, I don't know if you have or not. But Larry Walker said that, I never used PEDs, but he said, I feel my PED was Coors Field. And I feel that's the big reason why people were holding him back is because where he played his game at. The majority of his home games he played at Coors Field. It's disappointing to see, guys like that get discredited before because of the ballparks that they play in. You know, I've always said, and I'll continue saying, if you're going to roast a hitter for, you know, hitting well in a hitter's ballpark, then why don't you do the same thing for pitchers for pitching well in a pitcher's ballpark? At
True.
Clayton Kershaw, at Madison Bumgarner, you know?
Well, the other thing about it being a hitter's ballpark is he played outfield and he won 5 Gold Gloves playing for the Rockies. And they have the second largest outfield in all of baseball. And so to win 5 Gold Gloves playing in the outfield there, that's just, you can't knock him for one and then not give him credit for the other.
Right. No, I agree 100%. You know, Gold Gloves are a huge, you know, that's a big deal for a lot of players. You know, people say, oh, yeah, they love the MVPs, they love the Silver Sluggers. You talk to a lot of players that win those awards, and Gold Gloves are the award that they're the most proud of, because to say that you are the best defender in the game, and you know, 5 different times, you know, have it too. Walker also had a cannon. That guy had one of the best arms. Obviously, I wasn't, you know, old enough to really watch Larry Walker play, unfortunately. But, you know, watching tapes of him, that guy had an absolute cannon on him. And it's crazy to think that when he was younger, baseball wasn't even his first sport. It was hockey.
Yeah. And I just like to touch on the whole Coors Field thing. I mean, yes, it is a little bit of a benefit. And, like, I'm looking here at his splits on basereference.com, and, like, yeah, the average was a 70-point difference, home and away. Boy, I'm just getting ESPN updates like crazy. And on base percentage was a difference of 61. But he still had a 370 on base percentage, 278 batting average, and 168 home runs on the road. Right. And these home splits aren't just Coors Field. He played in Montreal and St. Louis as well. So although it's a difference, it's not glaring enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. And most hitters are better at home. They're just more comfortable there, you know, and you play there for more. I mean, unless you're in a completely and totally pitcher's ballpark, but most players are going to be better at home.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I guess touching on that again, you know, we don't got to keep, you know, beating a dead horse here. But at the end of the day, people who are complaining about Derek Jeter not being unanimous, I have no sympathy for. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I really honestly do not care, because the fact that Larry Walker had to wait 10 ballots to finally get into the Hall of Fame is just, I don't know, it was mind-boggling. He should have been in there 10 years ago, in my opinion. But I'm not a baseball writer, I guess.
Should be.
I should.
I think all 3 of us should be. We should count the 3 votes next year.
We should.
I'm in.
But anyways, but nonetheless, though, Derek Jeter is one of the better, you know, he is a very solid player and definitely a Hall of Famer. So you got to give props to him for sure. Number 2, definitely iconic. A sports icon too, not just baseball. You know, it's a lot of people in sports also giving him props as well too.
Well, and I will give him this. Nowadays, there's a lot of really good hitting shortstops, but in the history of baseball, there's not. And, like, I know A-Rod was a shortstop to begin with, but he ended up at 3rd. Derek Jeter's, like, 2nd, I think, all time in shortstop war among Hall of Famers. So, I mean, that's pretty good. So I'll give him that.
There's one thing.
But I asked you for 10 minutes, but I'll give him
that. Plus, he's dated a lot of beautiful women. So I'd put him in the Hall for that.
His wife is Hannah Jeter, so.
Alrighty, so we are going to move on now. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens did not make it to the Hall of Fame. Now, this one I thought was a little surprising, just because from projections and stuff that I was seeing, personally, I thought they were going to make it in based off of the ballots and stuff that were in. I thought they were going to, ended up not. And quite frankly, they weren't really even close to making it in. So we will start with Mr. Doetkott on this one. I know you're a Bonds Clemens guy, but what do you have to say about this?
I'm not surprised they didn't make it in, and I don't think they will. They have 2 more years on the ballot, and they missed it by, I think they were just over 60% each. So they missed it by enough where I don't feel like they're going to make up that ground in the next 2 years. Personally, I would vote them in, but I am okay if they don't make it. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you cheated, you used PEDs, you kind of put it on yourself. But I think, considering you need a pretty high percentage of the vote to actually make it in, I think there's enough baseball writers who have just said, I will not under any circumstances put these two through. And I think there's enough people who think that, whereas they're not ever going to be able to get over the hump and get in. I really don't think so. But like I said, I would put them in, especially like I had to touch up on my Clemens stats a little bit, but like Bonds, for instance, had 3 MVPs before he even took steroids. Nobody in the history of baseball besides Barry Bonds has won more than 3 MVPs. 3 is the most. Bonds had 3 before he even took steroids. So the dude was clearly a Hall of Fame player before he even started juicing. And I personally think he's the best hitter to ever live, whether it's steroids or not. So I would put him in, but I understand that he's not in. I understand it.
Caleb, what's your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, taking roids, it's not a good thing for the game, and so they're not making it in right now because of the image they cast on the game, which I get that. Just put them in. Like, they deserved it. Like you were saying, Bonds had the stats even before he took steroids. He did tarnish the image of the game a little bit by doing so, but sometimes you just got to forgive a guy and move on.
See, I am completely against you guys on this one, and I think I will be.
I think we should kick you off, Dorton.
Why? Yeah, I'm sure you want that. No, for me, I get the argument. You know, I get what you guys are saying as far as, before he supposedly did take steroids, which he did. They both did. Yeah, they were probably Hall of Fame players, and I get that. I really do. But my argument is that why did you feel when you were already on a Hall of Fame trajectory that you needed to get even better? They were already talented. They already had skill. So I don't get why they felt, because they were already on a superstar level and they wanted to become superstars to demigods is the next level that they wanted to go to. And I don't understand that.
I mean, I think I can touch on that. Again, I can speak more so for Bonds. At the end of the day, Bonds is the only one who could give you the answers to why he took them. But from what I've read up on is he knew Sosa and McGuire were juicing, and they were getting all the attention competing for the home run crown, getting 60 home runs. And from what I read, Bonds knew it. He got jealous and said, fine, I'll juice. I'll show you what happens. He takes steroids. He hit 73 home runs and showed everyone who was the best hitter in baseball. And I think that's why he took the roids. I'm not trying to excuse it, but I believe that is the reason why, because Sosa and McGuire were on them and he knew it and he wanted to show them he was better.
But even like that, like a jealousy thing, I would much rather have a guy, like a Larry Walker, it's the first name that came to my head because we just talked about him, on my team who who could match, or even better, Mike Trout. Mike Trout, even a better example. I would rather have a guy like Mike Trout on my team who naturally is good at all this stuff, and you don't hear him. Mike Trout is not a guy that's going to go out there and say, oh, I'm jealous, give me attention, give me this, that, and the other. Because he just goes out there, does his thing, and balls out. And everyone's like, hell yeah, this guy's a dang good player. But then you have a guy like Barry Bonds who, if it's an ego thing, I don't care. I really do not care the fact that he got jealous. He was on a Hall of Fame trajectory path, was a phenomenal player, took steroids to become even better, and became even better. So I don't care about that he got jealous and he wanted to compete with them, because at the end of the day, you took steroids. It's not a if, and, or but. You did.
Well, like you said, I'm not trying to defend what he did. I personally wish he wouldn't have taken them, because I truly think Barry Bonds would be known as one of the best hitters to ever live. But most people won't give him that because he took them. So I wish he wouldn't have. But with that being said, I'm willing to look past it and realize how good him and Clemens were regardless and put them in.
Unrelated, what do you guys think about Curt Schilling's chances? Because he had the numbers. His is just that he's a very outspoken, He has some really controversial opinions that a lot of people don't agree with. He was at 70% this past year. You guys think he's going to get in? Because he has 2 years left, I believe.
You need 75%, correct?
Yep.
I think considering he just got to, I think, just over 70%, and he's been rising, I believe he will get in the next 2 years. And I'm not sure on the upcoming class who's up for it next year. But the remaining, like besides Walker and Jeter, this ballot wasn't as strong as normal. So I think Schilling will get in. I don't know about next year, but definitely within the next 2 years. And I do think he's deserving. His stats are a little borderline, but he's got the postseason stats to back it up. And I personally would put Schilling in. I do think he will get in.
And I agree. I kind of like to compare a couple of guys. Curt Schilling, and in my opinion, is kind of similar to like a Jack Morris. Regular season stats, they were pretty decent. They were okay. Had some solid seasons, but then the postseason is really where you start to see the numbers. That was the same thing for Jack Morris. Absolutely phenomenal postseason pitcher. Same with Curt Schilling, one of the better ones.
Very good comparison.
One of the better ones that we've seen. Jack Morris obviously getting in. So I think Curt Schilling definitely deserves to be in. And I think it's just the fact that he is a little outspoken is the fact that they aren't putting him in. Same thing with Walker. I think he should have been in a much, much longer time ago than he may or may not get in now. Now, 70% definitely trending up. I can't see why he wouldn't get in, but we'll have to see.
He went up almost 10% from 2019 to 2020. He went from 60.9 to 70%.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Right, I have a separate question also, especially for you, Dorton, because you are against Bonds and Clemens. Would you guys put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame if we're up to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%.
So your thing is steroids affect the way you actually play, whereas Rose didn't actually affect the way he played. He just bet against it. That's your feeling?
That's my feeling, because with Pete Rose, he only ever bet on his team to win. He never bet against his team. That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand, is he never bet against his team. He was always betting on his team. Now, I get it. Betting is not something that you should be doing, and I'm not condoning betting at all by any means. Kind of like how, with the steroids thing. But when you do something that isn't going to directly impact how you play the game, I don't have an issue with it. That's why I have a huge issue with this Houston Astros thing. I think they're all naturally talented players nonetheless, and I think they could have won the World Series without having to cheat. But the fact that they did just puts an asterisk by it. That's the same thing, Bonds and Clemens. I think they were amazing players, probably already on their way to the Hall of Fame. But the fact that they cheated puts an asterisk next to it. How serious can you take it?
I hear you on that. Personally, I would put Rose in as well. I feel like, what he didn't affect the way he actually played, and I know he screwed up. But like I said, I'm willing to forgive the guy and move on and forget about it. And I would put Rose in too. But your argument for why Rose and why not the other two, it's a legitimate argument. I hear you on that.
I'd be more willing to forgive Rose if he wanted forgiveness, because the guy is still outspoken. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's pretty stubborn.
Yeah.
He is.
But put him in. The stats show it. He deserves it.
Well, I got a Pete Rose autograph. It would go up a little bit in value. So come on, put him in.
See, my parents met Pete Rose in Vegas one time. He was at a signing thing, and then they were going to give me an autograph, but then they're like, "Oh, you have to buy something Cincinnati Reds or something for him to sign it." And they're like, "Yeah, no way."
This is kind of off topic, but I went to Radio Row before the Super Bowl at Mall of America 2 years ago, and it was one of the stores that they had a Randall McDaniel signing. I'm like, "Oh, okay, we'll go get a Randall McDaniel signing." Well, you had to spend $50 at the store to get an autograph. I'm like, "No. This is stupid. You're using Randall McDaniel to get me to buy money at your store? Screw off." I left. Said no.
Oh, that's funny. Nonetheless, so we're going to have to keep track on this Bonds Clemens thing, because it is interesting. Obviously, people are right down the middle with that. It's not like the Pete Rose thing. I think a lot of people are kind of like, yeah, let Pete Rose in. Bonds and Clemens, I feel it's right down the middle. Some people think they should deserve to be in. Some people don't think they deserve to be in. It's definitely a topic of debate that you can have any day of the week for sure. But anyways, moving on from that, go on to a lot of baseball stuff to talk about. This is going to be the last thing for baseball before I have a couple other topics. So supposedly they're going to be using the electronic umpires during spring training. Now, essentially what I've heard is that it's just going to be kind of like a bug, testing to see how things go. Manfred wants to try and get things going and pretty solid by, I think, the 2022 season, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of what I've been hearing. So are you guys in favor, and we'll start with Caleb on this one, are you guys in favor of the robo-umps?
Nope. Human error is part of the game. And it's excusable if it's a human making an error. But if you get a robo-ump in there and it messes up on something, then that just looks terrible that you took people out of jobs and you put robots in. And if they make one mistake, the whole idea was to erase mistakes. And now it's like, well, why don't we just still have those umpires calling balls and strikes?
Mm-hmm.
Nick, what about you?
To be honest, I don't even really know where I fit on this one. I think I'd be fine with it and without it. Like, at the end of the day, human error is part of the game, almost any game, and that's part of what makes it so great. But at the end of the day, like, if the Twins were in Game 7 of the World Series and got rung up on strike 3 on a terrible pitch, I'd be pretty upset about it. And, a robo-ump probably, won't. I guess I never even thought of the fact, like, what if a robo-ump screws up? That would look really bad, and how do you correct it? And that's obviously probably going to happen at one point. I didn't even think of that. But at the end of the day, I hate it when umps make bad calls at home, but it's also part of the game, too. So I know this is a pretty awful opinion because I don't really have one, but I don't know. I'd be okay with it, and I'd be okay without it. But I'm pretty sure even if they have the robo-umps, I think they're still going to have, like, umps there just to kind of run the game through. I mean, I don't think they'll be calling balls and strikes, but I think they still have a home plate umpire for, like, plays at the plate and whatnot. Because I don't think the robo-ump can, call you safe and out at home. I'm not exactly sure what they're all experimenting with, but
it's a good point.
I guess I'd be for it or against it. I really don't mind either way, to be honest.
Welcome to Dorton and Doetkott debate, where we can like both sides of the argument. No, I feel that it's tough. I mean, there's so many pros and cons with it. Definitely on the Caleb side of thing, you got to keep the human element in the game somehow. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as far as like plays at the plate or plays at first base, second base, third base, whatever. I don't know. I personally am not for it because kind of for the reason like Caleb said. If you have some egregious missed calls, I mean, what do you say now? The umpires screwed up and now the robo-umps screwed up who are supposedly supposed to get it right 100% of the time. So that definitely would not be a good look, and I could 100% see that happening.
Can they program these robo-umps to toss Gardy out of the game? Because he leads the league in it every year. Like, if he's going to argue with the robo-ump, are they going to make a robo-ump be able to toss Gardenhire out? Because I'd love to see that. I could see Gardy just walking out there with, like, his water bottle and just dumping it on. Like, what now? Now you don't work, robo-ump.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm curious what these look like. I'm envisioning, like, a little Wally that sits behind the plate.
Right? Little R2-D2 out there, maybe.
Yeah, I am actually pretty interested to see how they decide to do this. I don't know. I just feel I like a lot of the stuff that MLB's doing as far as trying to get with the times and stuff like that. But I don't want to get so far with the times that you take away from America's pastime, Mm-hmm. And that's the best part is it's human element. I think maybe something that I would do, and MLB's got to loosen up on this, is the automatic, no arguing balls and strikes or else you're going to get tossed. Because there are some really soft umpires out there. And it feels like you just...
really bad ones.
Really bad. Yeah, probably the worst of the worst there.
He literally should not have a job. Major League Baseball should say, Angel Hernandez, you're done. He's awful.
Yeah, actually, I just pulled up an article from this past summer, because there was one league that did try out the robot umps, and it says that the robot umpires, somebody was tracking them compared to regular umpires, and it said the robot umpire performed about as well as human umpires.
Really?
So it sounds like they're making mistakes too.
Okay.
If that's accurate and they don't, improve them, then yeah, definitely don't go with the robo umps.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That actually is that's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
What league tried that out?
What's that?
What league tried that out?
It was one of, I think, it's one of the, I think it was like a single A. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah.
When in doubt, use the minor leagues as your test dummies. I don't know. Yeah, that's real interesting. We'll definitely have to keep tabs on that. There's a lot of stuff like in the future, like what if this happens, what if that happens. Caleb?
I figured it out. It was the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball.
Oh yeah, they do all sorts of things.
Yeah. They do a bunch of wacky stuff.
Yeah, because they were the ones who did there was another one that they did.
That's the one you can steal first.
Yep, that's what I was thinking of.
You know about that, Dorton?
Yep, yeah.
You can steal first. Now, for me, and I play town team baseball, my best asset is stealing. I was a terrible hitter this last year, but I just want to get on base because I can steal. So I don't mind it. Personally, I don't think they should ever make that a rule in major leagues, but it's kind of fun just because I like running, and it's like some of those guys, when they see a wild pitch, they would definitely just take off and steal first.
Oh, yeah.
But with that being said, I don't think that should ever become a rule. That's kind of dumb. It takes
Billy Hamilton's on base percentage would go up.
Yeah. I mean, anything, balls in the dirt, just zoom, especially when you're a lefty.
Oh, man. Or Mr. Caleb Sipe, the king bunter as well, too. It's a few of those.
You got to teach me how to drag bunt, man. I've been told you're like the greatest bunter. I suck at drag bunting. If I could do it, I could bat like 400. But I can't bunt to save my life.
It's a talent that I'm not super proud of because I can't hit anything else. But if I drop the bat, I'll get on with a bunt.
I would gladly take that every time.
That's awesome. Well, we could probably move on from that now. Some college basketball. Normally don't have a lot to talk about college basketball. Well, this one was pretty wild. And I'm sure a lot of you saw this. Kansas and Kansas State basketball. You talk about malice at the palace. That's pretty crazy right there. Essentially, Kansas State was getting absolutely ruined by Kansas. No shock there. And stole the ball from the Kansas player with seconds left to try to go up for a layup. Absolutely got volleyball spiked, stood over them. Madness ensued. Silvio De Souza, the big man for Kansas there, picked up a chair, threw it out onto the court. There's just a ton of bad stuff going on that one. So, Nick, we'll start with you on this one. First off, before we get to the Silvio De Souza thing, what is your opinion as far as, are you a guy that you play hard until the clock hits 0, or is it if you're getting ruined or you're ruining, just let the clock run out?
I mean, at open gym, we'll be up 14 with 10 seconds left, and I'm still pressing them because I'm like, no mercy. But no, if you're Kansas State, just let it go. It's kind of funny because this is 2 years in a row this happened to Kansas. Monmouth, who was literally losing by 55 or something like that last year, had a dude come up from behind with 5 seconds left to steal it and get a dunk at the end. And Kansas was just PO'd. Well, now it happened to him again. And, then, the fight ensued. So if you're Kansas State, I'd say just let her go. Although I'm not positive. Was there time on the shot clock left?
I don't think so. I think it was maybe 10 seconds left in the game.
Well, if there was literally no time on the shot clock or anything, then definitely, yeah. Just let it go. And, but I mean, I don't think Kansas should get, at the end of the day, Kansas, you're still going to win. So just forget about it and move on. I don't think they should have done what they did afterwards, but no, I don't think Kansas State should go for a steal there.
Caleb, what's your opinion?
So, yeah. So the Kansas State guy who made the steal, is it James Love. That was his first. It was either his first or his second game he'd been in all season, and he got an 8-game suspension. So that's not really going to hurt them much. You got a guy who's playing in his first or second game, and he's out. Antonio Gordon, the other guy, who got a 3-game ban for Kansas State, he was originally averaging 20 minutes per game, but his minutes had significantly been decreasing in the weeks leading up to that. So Kansas State's not going to get too hard. It looks like DeSouza averages about 18 minutes per game. So he's a solid contributor on a team that's actually going to do something in the tournament. And he's out for 12 games. I think you could have given him more. Picking up a chair and going after someone. He didn't actually hit somebody with the chair, so that's, I would imagine, why they only had it at 12. But still, you picked up a damn chair and you were looking to take someone's head off. And the picture,
like the Night School of Basketball.
He must have. But the picture of it that went around the internet, it was very iconic. It had him with the chair, and just the camera angle, you could very clearly see Kansas on his jersey. There was a woman crouched down at his feet, looking up in terror, and he's up here with the stool about to swing it. It's just the image that casts on Kansas basketball. I can get why they gave him 12 games, and I would not have been surprised if they gave him more.
So that was going to bring me into my next points, Caleb. So you did kind of touch on that. So Nick, do you think they should have given him more than 12 games? Or you think 12 is a decent amount?
I mean, I normally am pretty lenient on these players and suspensions. So, I mean, more, I would understand more, but I think 12 gets the job done. I mean, 12 games is pretty much going to be the rest of the regular season for them. And it might eventually lead to the downfall of it might lead to the end of the Kansas Big 12 consecutive regular season championship streak, although I think Baylor's going to take care of that anyways. So it's a pretty big suspension, but I mean, if you go much more than 12, you might just be the end of the season, and I don't think you need to do that.
12 games puts him at returning for the regular season finale against Texas Tech.
Okay, yeah. So pretty much, thank you. But pretty much the end of the regular season, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You know, Kansas definitely is a team, as Caleb said, that is always competing constantly in the tournament, competing for national titles a lot of years. So as far as how is this going to affect their seeding once they do get to the tournament, who knows? Maybe they'll persevere through this and they'll keep getting wins without him. It's going to be tough when you have a guy that's consistently averaging 18 minutes a game now is not playing at all. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll have to see. I guess in college basketball as a whole, is this a bad look on college basketball, or are you just more mainly focused in on Kansas itself as a program, how it's a bad look for them? What's Nick on this one?
I don't think it really paints a negative picture for college basketball. I think it maybe paints a negative picture for the time being on Kansas and Kansas State. But, I mean, there's so many college basketball programs and teams and games. I don't think this is really going to resonate with fans and put a bad image on college basketball. I don't think so. But, I mean, it is a pretty big-name program, so it's not a good look. But I think overall it'll be fine.
Caleb?
I just wanted to clarify a point from earlier. Kansas's streak of winning the Big 12 ended last year when Kansas State and Texas Tech split the lead.
Oh, it did? Oh, sorry. Yep. I guess I did not realize that.
Yep. Before that, Kansas had won it, or at least won a share of it, since 2005.
I would say it was like 12 or 13 because they split it with Oklahoma the one year. I did not realize they didn't win it last year. Right?
Texas Tech was good last year. But yeah, about the image of the program, I think it won't hurt too much. I think it'll be something that Big 12 teams and specifically Kansas State will bring up as a meme for a while. But other than that, it won't have too much of a lasting impact other than the suspensions.
And I can't imagine it would either. Definitely it'll be an iconic moment as far as fights go for sports. I think that's something that people are going to be remembering for a long time, Caleb. Like you talked about with that picture as well, too. I mean, it'll be a legendary picture for years to come. So move on to some NFL talk. Eli Manning retires. I don't think anyone was too surprised about that. So I guess first off, we'll start with Caleb on this one. I guess talking about, and we'll get into the Hall of Fame discussion with him shortly. So maybe don't talk about that. But just looking at Eli Manning's career as a whole, what do you have to say about it?
I'd say it was a very solid career. Game manager who made some clutch plays. Obviously, he saved us from Tom Brady having 2 more rings.
Yeah.
The guy never, I mean, he was good. He was very good, but he was never, I can't think of a single Giants team where he was the best player on the team. Like, they had some bad teams, and he was not even the best player.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, what about you?
I mean, probably bashing Eli Manning here, but he retired about 6 years too late. The guy's been terrible for a long time. I literally think he maybe has been the worst starting quarterback in football for the last 3 years. I'm not kidding when I say that. He's been gosh awful. But that being said, he had a heck of a career because he was very clutch when it mattered. So, but he should have retired a long time ago. Or
So I guess
should have at least not started him.
So this goes into now the debate, and we'll start with Nick on this one. I have an idea of where you might go with it. I don't want to assume, but Nick, what is your opinion? Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
I think he will make it into the Hall of Fame. I think they will vote him in, because of the 2 Super Bowls. I'm okay if he makes it in because at the end of the day, the dude is really clutch. I mean, he beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice. Granted, they didn't score much, but he had a game-winning drive in both those games. But regular season-wise, he was never that good. I mean, he was above average probably for most of his career, but he's regular season-wise, to me, he's not even close to Hall of Fame. I think him and Phillip Rivers, I'll use them as an example because they were literally traded for each other in the draft. They're about the opposite. Rivers is a Hall of Fame type quarterback in the regular season. Manning is not, but Rivers never had postseason success. That's not just because of him, but he never had much success in the postseason, whereas Manning got the job done in the postseason, won 2 Super Bowls. If I actually had a vote for the NFL Hall of Fame, I probably, I'd probably actually give it to him just because he did win 2 Super Bowls, and the NFL Hall of Fame is not very strict. The MLB Hall of Fame is actually hard to get into, so no way in heck would I vote him in. But the way they voted in the guys in the NFL, I mean, he's more deserving than some guys who are in there probably. So I suppose I could give him a vote.
Mr. Sipe, what's your take on this? Is he a Hall of Famer?
I'm looking at his stats right now. He never led the league in touchdowns or yardage, but he led the league in interceptions 3 different times. Yeah. One of those being 2007.
Really?
Yeah. He led the league with 20 interceptions.
Pretty sure he's below 500 as a starter in the regular season, but I could be wrong.
It's really
actually close. He's exactly at 500. He's 117. Never tied a game. But yeah, I think he's, like we were talking about with Jeter, rings are sometimes overvalued when looking at a player. So the NFL more so than the MLB, like you can have just a couple really good players who can lead a team to a championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas the MLB, you need to have a more complete team. But Eli Manning was never, until you got to the playoffs, he was never the guy putting the team on his back. Like,
agreed.
The dude belongs in the Hall of very above average. I think he will make the Hall of Fame just because he's got those 2 rings and everybody will remember what he did in the playoffs and that he was very solid. He had a long career. So props to him. I wouldn't vote him in, but I would be surprised if he doesn't make it into the Hall of Fame.
So you have a vote, you would not put him in?
I would not, but I would know that my peers as voters would put him in. And I would slightly cringe at that, but at the end of the day, sure. If you're going to let everybody in, let Eli Manning in.
Yeah. I'm very on the fence about it. I think what you said is pretty much hitting a nail on the head. I think he's going to make it in, but me personally, I don't know. I'm very on the fence about it.
So I think if I have a vote, I'm putting him in. I think he is a Hall of Famer. In my opinion, again, comparing players, now this is two pretty separate sports, but, I did Kurt Schilling with Jack Morris. Now let's do Kurt Schilling and Eli Manning. Regular season, they're okay.
Schilling was better than Eli in the regular
Yeah,
season.
Schilling had a 3.4 career ERA.
Okay, well,
If
it's hard to
compare.
I don't know how you compare that.
Let's just get him. Let's get him, Caleb. Let's get him.
Eli is like a 4.5 ERA.
Well, he must have been playing at Coors for his career then.
It's all right, though. If it goes 6 innings with a 4-5, it's a quality start. So don't worry.
Quality start. That's right. I
Yeah,
am
it's a
going to
quality start, but it's not elite.
I am going to put Eli Manning in. I think, obviously we talk about rings, how they shouldn't be the determinant when you're trying to decide if a player should get in or not. I think because he has those rings, and let's not forget, too, it's not like he was beating some scrub teams. He had to go up against New England Patriots twice. For the first time was seeing, the Patriots could have an undefeated season and be the second team in NFL history to do that. And obviously, after my Miami Dolphins, let me throw that little ad in there. It's about the only thing we got going for us these days. But having said that, he had to beat that team, which was a juggernaut of a team. I think we can all agree on that. And then the second time also, the Patriots team I don't think was nearly as good, but nonetheless, it was a New England Patriots, a dynasty in the making, and he had to beat them again. Twice as a wild card. He didn't win the division when he did this. He was a wild card team twice when he beat them. So you got to go through the gauntlet to do that. That ain't easy.
Well, to get to the Patriots the first time, he had to beat the 13-3 Packers with Brett Favre in his final season.
Yep. And then the second time to beat the Patriots, I'm pretty sure he had to go through Aaron Rodgers too.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
I think the important part about what you said, yes, the fact that he beat the Patriots twice, but also not that those games were shootouts, but he had a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter both times. That's the important part, because that's mainly on him. I mean, I know you can't throw to yourself, and the David Tyree catch is pretty improbable. Plus, there was about 4 holding calls that weren't called.
Oh, get out of here! You jumped.
There was, but
I mean, Eli Manning got the job done there, so he does deserve a lot of credit for that.
Okay, now, Nick,
demonstrated escapability there.
Nick, you might
watch the play, man.
Nick,
I'm saying that he was
forgetting. You must be forgetting that Eli Manning pretty much had the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on his side to get out of that sack. Because to this day, I have no idea how he was able to get out of about 3 or 4 Patriots players around him, taking him down. Now, this ain't no Lamar Jackson. This ain't Michael Vick. This ain't Russell Wilson. This is Eli Manning. His last name is Manning. The only athletic Manning in the family is Cooper. And he didn't even play in the NFL, okay?
Hey, what about Archie?
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't watching football in the 1700s when Archie...
I've heard Cooper's son is lighting it up in high school right now.
Yeah, come on.
Well,
nephew.
We'll see what happens. But
just go watch the Tyree play. There was a hold by maybe every lineman on that.
You're just salty because you love the Patriots, love Tom Brady. You're just salty that they lost that game.
At the time, I was cheering for the Giants, but
that is unbelievable. Okay, now this is the next point that I want to make. I think when you're talking about Eli Manning and the players, it depends on how much do you value postseason success. And if you value it a lot like I do, then absolutely, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he takes an above average, a little bit above average career, and the success that he had in the postseason, I think, skyrockets him to a Hall of Fame bust. Now, I will say this: they do let a lot of people into the Hall of Fame. In my opinion, I think Troy Aikman's one of the most overrated players of all time. So I think if you're going to let Troy Aikman into the Hall of Fame, I think you got to let Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame. So, yeah.
That's a good point. That was somewhat of my point. The Baseball Hall of Fame is actually hard to get into, like it should be. The NFL Hall of Fame is not as hard. The NBA Hall of Fame is a joke. The Basketball Hall of Fame is a joke. You make a three-pointer and you're in the Hall of Fame. It's pathetic. Yao Ming isn't anywhere. Yao Ming's barely been an all-star some years. He made the Hall of Fame. It's just a joke. But yeah, considering the NFL Hall of Fame standards aren't as tough as Major League Baseball, that's why I'm considering Eli Manning borderline. Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know Aikman's numbers off the top of my head, but, I mean, I don't think he's he's no Elway or Marino or anything by any means.
Right. I don't know. I think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. I definitely giving him a vote. So I have a vote for the NFL Hall of Fame and MLB Hall of Fame. I'm giving it to Eli Manning.
Did you see Brady's tweet about Eli?
I did.
That was kind of funny.
Troy Aikman, I just pulled it up. His career touchdown to interception ratio was 165 to 141. So not that great.
That's awful. Great. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But at least he had a winning record at 94 and 71.
Well, he had Emmitt Smith, did he not?
Yeah. Did he also not have Michael Irvin? Yeah. And arguably one of the better off. I mean, that's the thing with the Dallas Cowboys. Their offensive line, that's been their one constant. They have always had amazing offensive lines, as far as I know. It can make a very average quarterback look like an elite.
You want to be good, you got to be good on the O line and the D line, especially the O line, and then you want a good quarterback. That's the recipe.
Absolutely. I actually really like that Troy Aikman and Eli Manning comparison because both of them won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that mean it was like Eli Manning going to announce a Joe Buck in the future or two or what? I'm pretty sure I heard he was interested in announcing.
Listening to Eli announce football is about as exciting, I would imagine, as listening to Joe Mauer call baseball.
Joe Mauer doesn't really call it. Okay, this is a topic for a different day, but the Twins color analysts are just pathetic. They're awful. We need one of you two on there. I guess Dorton, you're a Rocky fan, but it's bad.
Hey, I'll talk about the Twins, man. You give me some stuff to talk about, I'll do it.
It's terrible. Dick Bramer's a legend, and everybody else with him is just terrible, in my opinion.
Well, Justin Morneau is going to get a chance to prove himself, it sounds like.
Okay, what's your take on him? I think Morneau is, decent. What he says is good, and, I agree with most things he says, but he says it in the most monotone voice. He's very quiet. He doesn't get you excited at all. At least get me excited. What he's saying is okay, but, come on, dude. Put some energy in your voice.
Yep.
Not everybody can be as loud as you, Nick. Sorry.
Well, you don't have to be as loud as me, but at least be a little, sound like you're a little excited to be there. Come on. Hey, put some of that Canadian hockey energy into it.
Oh, man, that's funny. We talk about Eli Manning, and then we move over to talking about the Minnesota Twins announcers. Welcome to the Dorton Duckett debate, folks. Well, anyways, move on from that. Eli Manning, nonetheless, winning 2 Super Bowls is not an easy thing to do, and Hall of Famer, not Hall of Famer, the guy definitely has some of the more iconic moments in the postseason history as far as plays that he's had to make to do that. But we can move on from that. Antonio Brown is in the news again for something good? No. Why would anything with Antonio Brown be anything good these days?
Wow.
Quite frankly, I didn't really want to talk about it a whole lot, but we need stuff to talk about, and anytime you can talk about Antonio Brown, it's normally, I don't know, any publicity is good publicity, right? So Antonio Brown essentially turned himself in for battery. I don't remember the specifics, but I think what they're going to have him do is I'm pretty sure, what was it, a drug and alcohol test, and then a mental health check or something like that too. I guess, Caleb, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think, I don't know, do you think Antonio Brown will be in the NFL again at some point? I don't even know what to talk about anymore with this guy.
No, there's no chance. I think Montez Perfect wrecked him and gave him CTE in a single hit. I'm glad that he turned himself in. because just the way he was tweeting, it was, this dude is not okay. Are we about to have a second Aaron Hernandez type documentary?
Oh, boy.
He was just off the rails. I'm glad he's finally locked up.
Good for him.
It's good for him because now he can actually hopefully get the help that he needs. I wish Josh Gordon had got the help that he needed earlier because I think both of them are very similar situations, super talented receivers who just struggled with mental health, and they just dealt with it in different ways. Gordon with weed and Antonio Brown with Twitter and who knows what else.
Yeah. I mean, my take on the thing, I mean, I don't like getting into it much. I don't like, attacking the I mean, I don't even know what word I'm looking for right now. I don't like talking about the character of anyone. At the end of the day, Antonio Brown's no greater and less than I am. But the dude clearly has some mental issues to work through. So now that he turns himself in, he's probably going to get the help he needs. And I think he's getting a psychoanalysis, which is good. I don't think he'll ever be in the NFL again. I mean, if Des Bryant can't get a job, then I guess he technically did with the Saints. They got injured. But if Des Bryant's not in the NFL anymore, then Antonio Brown ain't going to be, because Antonio Brown's gone far beyond more controversial things and way more things than anybody else, honestly, has ever done. By the way, I seen Kareem Hunt's in the news again for not very good reasons. That's not good.
Also,
yeah, but I don't know. I seen a thing about Brown could potentially be facing life in prison. Now, I don't know the case that well, but that's insanity. Come on, the dude had burglary charges, but life, that's stupid. But anyways, it's good he's in there. Hopefully he gets the help he needs, and I don't think you'll ever see him play an NFL game again.
I don't either, and it's really a shame too. And I tell people this, and not to in a joking manner to make fun of him, but kind of really in a serious matter. But I truly, in all of sports, you see a lot of villains in sports all the time. But I cannot tell you, I don't think there has been a player that in a single calendar month has had a complete heel turn like Antonio Brown did. Now, you can make an argument for Kevin Durant, okay? Kevin Durant, went to the Golden State Warriors from OKC. People didn't like him. There was a fair amount of people that supported what he did, liked him. I cannot, honestly, I don't know of a single person that is supporting what Antonio Brown is doing or agrees with what he's doing or likes Antonio Brown right now. Feel bad for him? Sure. I think a lot of people feel bad for Antonio Brown because I'm sure he is going through some stuff. But I truly have not seen a player in a calendar month turn into a bigger villain than Antonio Brown. Either of you guys, can you think of any scenario in any sport where a player's had a complete heel turn that quick?
No.
Marbury, maybe, but probably not. No, I can't.
Yeah. I don't know. I do feel bad for him, because obviously he's going through some mental stuff, but as far as what he's doing, it's just not a good look at all. I'm glad that now hopefully he has some help because he needs it.
Well, like you said, it's a shame. It's disappointing. I mean, 2 years ago, this guy may have been an MVP as a wide receiver, but he missed the last 2 games of the season. He got injured week 16, 17. He was putting up just insane numbers. And the dude, 2 years ago, he wasn't as good. I think part of the reason was Juju came. And honestly, I think that's part of the reason what led up to all this. I think he got jealous because Juju was darn near outgaining him and whatnot. And that's why he got all upset and wanted more targets. And that led to his leaving of Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's just disappointing. This was one of the best wide receivers in the league, one of the best wide receivers of the decade. And then all of a sudden, just, I don't know, went crazy. And now we might never see him in an NFL uniform again.
So question for you guys then, Antonio Brown. Right now, if he does not play another game in the NFL, is he a Hall of Famer?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The numbers say yes. The Kurt Schilling type situation says no. Antonio Brown, he had 841 receptions, over 11,000 yards, 75 touchdowns. The dude put up really good numbers. Mm-hmm. It's just he not only like went crazy, but like he went and attacked Robert Kraft, and he started saying stuff about like other people in the league, and you don't do that, especially if it's not true. And so he sort of like violated the unwritten bro code of the NFL.
Nick?
I mean, I think technically the Hall of Fame is supposed to be about stats and then like how you represent yourself in the community, whatever, in technicality. But to me, it should honestly just pretty much be about stats. I mean, if you're OJ Simpson or Darren Sharper or something, then yeah, that's pretty serious. I can see, putting them out. But to me, the stats would support Antonio Brown making the Hall of Fame. So I would probably say yes, he's a Hall of Famer. But that being said, he won't make it in. There's no way he will. The voters won't put him in.
Another wide receiver that kind of has similar, I don't know, crazy things at times when he was playing, Terrell Owens. Now, certainly not on the exact same level as Antonio Brown, but Terrell Owens for a few years, he wasn't making it in because a lot of the stuff that he did.
Terrell Owens not making it on his first ballot is blasphemous.
Yeah.
That's a mockery. It is pathetic. He's like a top 3 wide receiver statistically, and he had to wait so long. That literally pissed me off. It did.
Tell me how you really feel, Nick.
And I'm not even like this huge Owens guy, or Randy Moss guy, but Owens should have made it in the first try, no doubt.
Yeah.
And if it took him that long, then there's no way in heck Antonio Brown makes it in. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Owens had 5,000 more yards and twice as many touchdowns, more than twice as many touchdowns. Yeah. So
he's like,
and the postseason success.
Yeah, he's like top 3 in yards and touchdowns, I think, or top 5 in yards and touchdowns.
Yeah,
and receptions. He's up there in all of them.
Well, we'll have to keep tabs on this. I don't think he will sign. Maybe he will. I don't see it happening. And now with all this stuff going on, it's going to have to be a while. But
he can play in the XFL.
Yeah. I don't think he has the I think his pride is too good. Like he's got too much pride in himself to go to what he deems as an inferior league. But we'll see. I mean, he could prove me wrong.
When's that start up, by the way?
Saturday after the Super Bowl, I believe.
Oh, hey, seriously?
Go DC Defenders, baby.
Absolutely. They got 2 gopher guys there. They got Celestine, Jonathan Celestine, former middle linebacker.
No, who has these guys?
DC Defenders.
Oh, okay. I love.
And then the other one they got was
my boy. I like Celestine.
Jalen Myrick also signed with them.
Ooh, and Myrick. He was drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys were both good. I love.
I've got my Myrick Jaguars jersey in my room.
Really? Yeah, Celestine is good. Myrick is good.
Hey, since my Orlando Apollos, the AFL League champions, unfortunately their season was ended, but they won the championship, which is big time. So I'm expecting a lot of things from the DC Defenders since my Miami Dolphins can't get anything done.
They can probably beat the DC Defender. But maybe. I wouldn't count on it.
I don't know.
They beat the Patriots, so there's something.
Yeah. I actually picked the Dolphins to win like 3 times, though. That didn't go very well. We all know how my football picks were.
That's funny. So move on to the NHL. Their skills competition has been going on the last couple days. Unfortunately, me being a big NHL fan, I've had to work the last couple days when all of the stuff has been going on. So I haven't been able to watch any of it. Which is very unfortunate. But we're going to go through some of the competitions, who won it. Matthew Barzal from the Fastest Skater. That is a competition, the Fastest Skater, where you almost think Connor McDavid is going to win it every single year. That guy is one of the fastest players, if not the fastest player in the league. Surprisingly, he did not win it this year. A huge shocker. So congratulations for Barzal. The Islanders having an amazing season, and he's definitely a huge part of it. The Save Streak competition, Jordan Bennington from the St. Louis Blues won that one, so good for him there. St. Louis Blues, obviously being an Avalanche fan, have a little beef with them, but whatever, I don't care. And then, so the hardest shot competition, Shea Weber. I mean, this guy, when he was with Nashville, was one of the hardest had the hardest slap shot in the game. I can't remember if he won hardest shot contest. I'm sure he did. He was in it every single year. So who knows? This guy was still able to hit it. 106.5 miles an hour. You're kidding me, Shea Weber? Absolutely amazing. That's wild. Patrick Kane won the Shooting Stars competition there for that one. And then the All-Star. I like how they do it. For those of you who are not familiar, they have each division go up against each other. So the best divisions play each other, and then they play for a big prize at the end. Essentially the championship was between the Pacific Division and the Atlantic Division, with the Pacific Division winning it all 5-4. So after going through all that, Mr. Duckett, we'll start with you. Were you able to watch any of the skills competition, and if so, what did you like?
Unfortunately, no, I was not. But I read up on it. I knew who won. One thing I thought was interesting, Barzal, he told a Bleacher Report said that Barzal had said he believes he benefited from the recent bye. Now, I think it's kind of interesting. It seems a little far-fetched. I mean, it's just one darn time around the track, but he claims the fact that he just had a bye before the All-Star break helped him win that event. So maybe I don't know how I feel on that, but he claims the recent bye he had helped him win the fastest skater. The save competition, I know he didn't win, but Vasilevsky, man, did you see that save he had?
I tell you, I do not see goaltenders that make so many behind-the-back saves as frequently as Vasilevsky does. It's routine for him.
It was unbelievable. That I seen that one on the highlights. That was insane. And then the defenseman winning the accuracy shooting, that's kind of cool. And then Shea Weber, my goodness, 106.5. That is crazy. And then I don't know if you've seen, but Al McInnes, he's 56.
Yep.
He hit it 100.4. I mean, that's impressive for a 56-year-old to hit it 100.4 miles per hour. That's crazy. So that's some takeaways, but that's impressive by McInnes. And then Shea Weber, my goodness, that is fast, man. 106.5 miles per hour. That's crazy. I don't want to get behind that puck.
No, you do not. That's why they say goaltenders in the NHL are some of the craziest people on the earth, because who would be willingly want to stand in a net and take pucks well over 100 miles an hour to try and block it?
Not me.
Caleb, what did you think about it?
The only name I recognized was Jordan Binnington, and that's because I watched Game 7 of the the Stanley Cup Finals. I am not a hockey guy. I have a Minnesota Wild jersey. I have watched one hockey game, and three hockey games in their entirety. Two. I take that back, two. I left the one women's hockey game because the wrestling team was taking on number 2 Oklahoma State. And so I just ditched that game because we were up like 6-0 on St. Cloud. I've watched 2 Gopher hockey games. Had classes with a bunch of hockey players. I just never got into it.
You guys got to get into it. Got to start watching more hockey so I can talk to you guys about it. Dang it!
One of my buddies is like a big hockey fan. I just like hassling him, so I always call it ice soccer, and then I call soccer grass hockey. It's pretty funny. But hockey can be pretty entertaining. The Stanley Cup game between the Kings and the Devils, right? No. Rangers, Kings and Rangers back in the day. Gosh, that was insane. The double overtime game, crazy good.
Well, I sat at a bar watching the Blues win their title. I don't even remember who they played. Oh, it was the Bruins, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember talking trash to some Boston friends.
I did not want the Blues to win that. Screw the Blues.
Yeah, I did not either. That's funny. Like I said, in my opinion, I think the NHL does the best as far as their all-star games and weekends go. I just really love it. I think they have so much stuff that you can do. I think if MLB added some more stuff besides a home run derby, I think it would make things cooler.
I still take MLBs just because the game is. I mean, MLB is one of those sports where you can't just play 50%, like
Right.
you can in the NBA. You have to pretty much go 100% of the All-Star game besides maybe, diving defensively. So it makes the game so good. And the home run derby is just that great. I do think they should do a little more stuff. Maybe try to do an event with the pitchers or something like that. Most probably wouldn't be in it because it could hurt the arms, but I still think baseball is the best. But hockey does a very good job with it.
So next week, everybody, a little bit of a commercial break here real quick. So a little bit of exciting news. Obviously, we have next week, I'm going to be interviewing one of my friends out here, Ryan Foster. He is a huge NHL fan, plays hockey, big hockey guy. So I will be talking to him next week, and we're going to be doing a mid-season review of stuff that he thought he liked from the first half, some shockers, some maybe things to look forward to the second half. So definitely be on the lookout for that for an NHL first half, I guess, looking back on it and how he liked it. So a little bit of commercial break, but I did want to throw that in there. We don't normally talk a lot about hockey. There isn't a lot to talk about a lot of the times this time of the year, obviously, until we get closer to the trade deadline. More stuff will be happening, and we'll be able to talk about it a lot more. Kind of like how the NBA is right now, too. Not a whole lot to talk about. But we will be doing that, so be on the lookout for that as well, too. But, anyways.
Wait. You said there's not a lot to talk about in the NBA when the greatest superstar of all time just made his debut on Wednesday?
Oh, gosh. That fourth quarter, though, man.
Yeah. He's going to lead me
irritated.
to the fantasy basketball championship.
I'm so irritated. I was busy that night, and I got home like right as that game started. I'm like, cool, I'll see Zion. Well, he played like 4 minutes in the first quarter. Then I kind of like watched one of my TV shows that was recorded, and I kind of flipped back whenever he went in there, and he barely even shot. He barely even played in the first half. And finally, like, I pretty much went to bed because I had to work in the morning, and I look at my phone and it says Zion's heating up in the fourth quarter. I'm like, really? Now you ball out when I'm stopped watching you? Tick me off.
I think he had like 5 points. He had like 5 points like going into the fourth quarter. And then I was like, okay, screw this. I'm just going to look at my stats tomorrow for fantasy basketball. I looked the next day and it's like 22 points. How did he do this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was what, 4 for 4 from 3 or something ridiculous
granted,
like that?
3 of them were wide open, but still he made them.
Well, anyways, so after that, we can move on. We don't have any more sports stuff to talk about. So now we move into the second part of our episode where we talk about, now we're going to be highlighting certain teams in Major League Baseball. Minnesota Twins will be the first team that we do in this series. Now, like I said before, we're going to try and keep it to where we do an episode that is the team that we talk about. So we're not going to be doing like we're doing now where we have stuff to talk about and then we talk about the team. It's going to be individual things. But, so, talk some Minnesota Twins. Last year, best season in franchise history, 101-61, won the Central Division, and then the New York Yankees happened. You guys couldn't get anything going. It was rough to see it happen. But we're not going to talk about negatives. We're going to talk about the positives. So, Caleb, we're going to start with you. A breakdown of last season. You have the stage, so go ahead. We'll talk whatever you want to talk about with them.
They hit a lot of bombas. I don't know if you know that. They ended up setting the MLB record in home runs with 307, which I will always remember since that's the area code for the entire state of Wyoming. Yeah, they did not really address pitching. Well, no, wait. They didn't address – we're talking last season, not the offseason.
Well, they didn't do that at the deadline either, though. So
no, they didn't. Pitching was solid. It was really the focus last year was on offense, and they got that done. Nelson Cruz broke out. He was the Sportsman of the Year for the Star Tribune. It was just a very good offensive season, and the fact that they didn't really address pitching at the deadline or during the season is what ultimately led to them getting knocked out by the Yankees. I was at Game 3. That was very frustrating.
Me too.
It was a sad game.
Yes, it was.
I just couldn't get anything going. So looking at that going into this next year, I was hoping they could build up the pitching, and I wasn't too thrilled with what they did for pitching.
Dorton knows how I feel about it.
Are we moving on to the offseason now?
Go ahead. Yeah, going to the offseason.
All right. So the offseason, you bring in Homer Bailey. Now, I'm looking at his stats right now. The last time, I'll just read off his ERAs from the past couple years. Last year was actually pretty good for him. He had 4.57 ERA. 2018,
Eli Manning
6.09. Yeah. 2018, he had above 6. 2017, above 6. 2016, above 6. 2015, 5.56. The last time he had a respectable ERA was 2014 when he had a 3.71. Like, this is the guy who we're signing for our rotation. And then
maybe they signed him to throw BP to all the Twins hitters so they can keep practicing hitting home runs.
I can break it down for you. We hit homers, so we signed a guy named Homer, and he's got 2 career no-hitters. So we said,
it's got to work out. It's got to.
2 career no-nos.
Yeah. Then the other pitching signing, I didn't mind as much because it was a bargain signing. Rich Hill, a.k.a. Dick Mountain, has been solid. He's never been super elite, which is what I kind of was hoping we would go after. But he'll be solid when he comes back in June, which is about the same time that Pineda will come off of his suspension. So,
hold on, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. How many games are left on that suspension? I was trying to figure it out and I couldn't.
I do not remember. I knew at one point, but with the off season, I kind of stopped.
Because it was a 60-gamer, and it was towards the end of the season, so I can't remember how many games he got, but I would think it's got to be about 40 left.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think he's also going to be, like, towards the end of the first third of the season or something. Yeah. You got to address the pitching. I was talking to Lucas about this all last season because I grew up in Wyoming, so I was a Rockies fan, and then I worked for the Twins when I moved out here. Both teams, you had Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell sitting there unsigned. You don't have to give up anybody to get these guys. You just have to float the cash out there. And neither team, both teams, that's what they needed, was a starter and a closer.
Yep.
Just let them sit there. And again, this offseason, Dallas Keuchel. Well, we're going to let him go sign with the White Sox.
Oh, the Twins of all teams.
Exactly. And then, speaking of pitching, I just realized I knew that we hadn't really touched our minor league pitchers, but we let Cole Stewart walk, former first-round draft pick. He didn't really. He had a career ERA of 4.79, but he still had potential, and now he's with the Baltimore Orioles. The other one we let go was a former top 100 prospect, Steven Gonsalves.
Yeah,
he's with the Mets now. Yeah, he did not do much at the major league level, but there was still always the potential there that, like, this guy was a top 100 prospect. I think he's stayed in the minor leagues way too long.
See, the Twins in minor league, they just tick me off. They leave everybody down there too long. It's not just Gonzalez.
Nick Gordon
is one rookie there, like 19. He probably, in my opinion, should have won World Series MVP at like 21. The Twins don't even call you up till you're 23. Nick Gordon's been in the minor leagues for 35 years. Like, come on, trade him or call him up. Like, gosh.
Yeah. I think we just need to move on from Nick Gordon because we've got Jorge Polanco broke out at shortstop. Luis Ariz broke out at second. And so there isn't really
shortstops.
Yeah, because then we also have Royce Lewis, and the new guy we drafted is a second baseman and shortstop in the first round. Was it Keone Cavaco,
Yes.
or
We got
something like
Royce
that.
Lewis, Keone Cavaco, and Wander Javier.
Yep.
Three of our best prospects. They're all shortstops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe you can teach him the pitch.
Well, Buxton threw 99 in college, maybe, or in high school. Maybe he should come pitch.
Yeah, maybe he will stay off the IL.
No, he'll get a hangnail on his pinky after the first start, and he'll miss the whole season.
Yep. Mentioning the breakout of Arise, that led to Jonathan Scope getting displaced. I believe he had some injury issues during the season. He was kind of disappointing. He hit 256, 23 home runs, 59 RBIs. He was solid defensively, but Luis Arise breaking out as if he had been the starting second baseman from day one, he would have been much more a part in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
He may have led the league in average.
Oh, yeah. He was very...
I believe he would have if he qualified.
Okay. I can pull that up right now.
Nonetheless, though, Twins definitely is a team that it always feels like, and this is Minnesota sports in general, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like they're just always one or two pieces away from being a legit team. Last year they had the offense. The offense was there. They didn't need any more offense. They needed pitching, and they didn't get it. They did not get it.
They got Sam Dyson. Come on now.
Hey, we got Tyler Clippard this offseason, and we brought back Sergio Romo. So that's somewhat solid.
So anyways, sorry to kind of interrupt, but my thing on the Twins last year, they had a heck of a season. Like you said, 101 and 61. That's tied for the most wins ever in a franchise. 307 home runs. That's impressive. Just some stats from ESPN.com quickly, just to make sure I was correct. First in home runs, second in runs, second in batting average, ninth in ERA. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But the glaring one to me that needs to be addressed, 26th in errors. The reason the Twins lost isn't because of their errors, though. They lost because come playoff time, now ninth in ERA, that's pretty good. But come playoff time, when there's 10 teams, I'm guessing off the top of my head, we were probably second or third to last in ERA amongst those teams. And we don't have an ace. The way to beat the Yankees, you throw an ace to just shut them down. Well, we don't have that. Barrios pitched decent in the first game, but Baldelli took him out way too early, and then we lost. Probably would have lost anyways. But we don't have the starting pitching for the playoffs. Now, our bullpen was decent, and they addressed that a little bit at the trade deadline last year, but not enough. But the big issue was starting pitching. They didn't get it. The Keuchel, like Caleb touched on, you can't just pass up Keuchel. And he actually ended up being pretty good. Kimmel didn't really pan out last year, but Keuchel ended up being pretty good, and he started in the playoffs for the Braves. To me, especially when they don't have to trade anybody, they had to have got Keuchel, but they didn't. So what do? They get swept by the Yankees in the playoffs. Now, coming into this year, I think they're going to make the playoffs easily again. I know baseball is kind of up and down, but considering the White Sox should be a lot better and the Indians will be there, but the Royals and Tigers are going to be the dumpster fires again. They're going to be so bad. And when you have the lineup you have and two terrible teams in that division, you should be able to win at least 90 games again. I think a lot of people expect regression, which is expected considering a lot of our guys probably have career years. But also, besides Cruz and now Donaldson, everybody in that lineup is under 30. They could also a lot of people could also get better. I mean, I look at Garver. He only played like 91 games and hit 31 home runs. The dude plays more. He could hit 40, so they can also get better. So I think there'll be a little aggression, but I think they're definitely going to win about 90, somewhere close to 93 wins, I think, again, and probably win the division, if not get a wild card. But yes, the concern is still starting pitching. And I went on a rant, 3 weeks ago, Dorton?
Yeah.
I called for a boycott of opening day and whatnot. I've moved off that a little bit because I got Donaldson. And I love the signing because Donaldson's a great signing, and we finally went out and spent some money. But at the end of the day, they still need starting pitching. And the Twins for years haven't really spent money. And some years it's understandable because he's not that good. Well, this offseason was the perfect time. You're good. You have the money to spend. And all you need is pitching. The hitting market for free agency wasn't that good. The pitching market was as good as it's ever been. or at least as good as it's been in a decade, and they didn't go out and get anybody. Now, I believe they're 18th in payroll, or 16th. They're 16th in payroll, so they're middle of the pack. So at least they're not like the Rays, but they need to address the pitching. They still do. Now, Donaldson signing is good, especially considering, like I said, we were 26th in errors last year, and our left side of the infield with Polanco and Sano is probably the worst in baseball defensively. Donaldson, I don't think has won a Gold Glove, but he's a very solid defensive third baseman, so it should help there. Sano will still be in the field, but he'll be at first, which I am a lot more confident in him at first and third. So
I've been calling for him to be moved to first ever since Molitor experimented with him at first, and he was much better there.
Yes, you're a smart man. And especially when you don't have that great a start of pitching, you want to have a good defense. Well, we didn't. So the defense should be improved. And I like the Clippers signing, like you mentioned. I really like that. I think their bullpen's going to be decent. Romo, May, Gratterall, I think is going to be in the bullpen. Duffy, yeah. Clippard, and Rogers in the closer. And Rogers' ERA probably would have been better than what it was last year, but he was called on for 2 inning saves like Hader is all the time, and it started getting to him. I think Rogers is one of the best closers in baseball. But Rios, Odorizzi should be fine. The starting pitching isn't going to be that great, but it should be good enough to make the playoffs. The question is, what are they going to do in the playoffs? So they have to get somebody at the trade deadline. I'm hoping like a David Price or like a Mike Minor or something like that. But they're going to need Barrios to stay healthy. That's the one thing that could deter them from making the playoffs, I think, because not that he's like this Verlander, but he's our ace, and he's the only guy in that staff who eats up innings. Our bullpen has to put in so many innings because even Odorizzi, with as good as he did last year, only pitches 6 innings. You know, somebody needs to eat up innings. That Bailey signing, yeah, like whatever, Homer Bailey. I do like you said, you like the Hill signing, right, Caleb?
Yeah,
I like that because yes, he's out till like June, and he's like 40. But over the last 4 years of his career have been darn near his best years of his career. Yeah. And come playoff time, he's probably going to start a game, I think. Like,
yeah.
Unless
I think you put him at number 3.
Good. Yeah, and he's had postseason. He's got postseason pedigree. He's been in it almost every year the last 4 years with the Dodgers. So I like that. The concerns, I think, I'm totally fine with them getting rid of Crone and Scope because I don't think they would have been starters. But now I don't think the bench is quite as good as it was last year. You're going to have Gonzalez, the ultimate utility guy there. And the Twins essentially have 10 starters. I mean, obviously you can only start 9, but Baldelli switches guys out all the time. You only have the same lineup like 3 times last year. So essentially they have 10 starters. It's just one of them's going to have to miss out opening day. But besides Gonzalez, you got Avila as a backup catcher, decent. But then you got Cave, Adrianza, and maybe Astudillo. I don't like any of those 3 that much. So the bench is a little bit of concern to me. And then I think the bullpen's going to be really good. But the only lefty in that pen is the closer. So I think they need to add a lefty reliever somewhere along the line. I guess the question I have for either one of you, how would you go about the lineup? Or the batting order, specifically leadoff hitter?
I think Arise.
I say, well, just quick, obviously, from a non-Twins fan, I guess I'm not going to be able to build something off the top of my head because I don't know him as well as you guys. But, I think if you have Byron Buxton, I think you throw him up there. In my opinion, I think you should have gotten rid of Byron Buxton like 3 years ago.
I agree with that.
But leadoff hitter, you want a guy that's going to be able to get on base. He doesn't really get on base much, but he's got speed. I don't know. I probably not. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually would not put him up there.
I see Caleb shaking his head. Who would you put there?
Arise. Because, like Lucas was saying, you want somebody. Why not?
I would.
Yeah. Because he's going to be the one that's getting on base the most consistently. And unless we have Astudillo starting, he's going to get on base consistently because he's Astudillo. But I think Arise he's not super fast, but he's got manageable speed.
Yes. I would put Arise there too against lefties and righties. I don't know what their plan is. I think maybe they keep Kepler there just because he did so well there last year. But personally, I'd put Arise there. He batted in the 330s last year, and he takes a lot of pitches. I know nowadays they're kind of going away from that prototypical leadoff hitter, the fast guy who just gets on base and takes a lot of pitches. But Arise is the perfect definition of that leadoff hitter you wanted, 5-10 years ago. He fouls off so many pitches. He's like impossible to strike out. He's somewhat fast, and he gets on base. And he's like the one guy out of 9 in our batting order, and somewhat Buxton, who doesn't really hit many home runs. So you might as well put him first when there's nobody on base anyways.
Yeah, he hit 4 home runs last year.
Yeah, and that's honestly probably like a lot for him because in the minors they hardly hit any at all. So I'd put Arias first, but I think you put Polanco second against righties because he's a much better left-handed hitter, and I think you put Garver there versus lefties, and then I think you switch them. Like I think I have my lineup would be Polanco second against righties and Garver 8th, just because our lineup's so similar after that with Donaldson, Cruz, Rosario, and then against lefties I'd put Garver at second in the lineup because he's the best best right-handed hitter best hitter against lefties. On our team, and I'd put Polanco all the way down to 8th. The 3-4-5 I think is, I mean, take your pick. You got Donaldson, Cruz, Sano, whatever. But I think leadoff, the Twins haven't had a really good leadoff hitter, I don't think, since like Span. Like Dozier was good, but he shouldn't have been leadoff. So I would put Arias there.
Well, didn't Dozier have the most leadoff home runs in Twins history his last season with us?
Yeah. I mean, he was a good leadoff hitter. I just don't think he was like, he shouldn't have been there, I don't think. Like, we needed that guy as third, but we didn't have anybody else to hit leadoff. And I just want to address what you said, Dorton. Buxton, you would love the guy to be able to bat leadoff, but he's just not a good enough hitter. And when he bats leadoff and third in the lineup the one year, I don't know what Mahler was thinking. He sucks. So he has to just bat 9th because that's the only way it seems like he's even confident, and you need him in the infield or in the outfield. Sorry. But what you mentioned about trading Buxton, to me, that's what the Twins should do. There's so many talks about trading Rosario, which I hate that because, one, our outfield depth's not that good, and Eddie Rosario is my boy. He's my favorite Twin. Buxton, you can't – I don't care if the dude hits 40 home runs this year. You know how many he's going to hit in the playoffs? 0, because he's going to run into a wall at 90 miles an hour when the Twins are up by 20 games in the division with 2 games left because he's an idiot and gets injured all the time. So they should trade him right now.
I think you package him with Nick Gordon and you go after a solid starting pitcher.
Yes.
Bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Last year, they were talking about Buxton for Syndergaard. I don't know if it was straight up exactly. And to be honest, I was a little hesitant. But now I'm thinking, why was I? I would have done that in a heartbeat. Now thinking.
Well, yeah, if the Mets would take that.
But there was talks that the Mets wanted Buxton. I think they wanted a little bit more, but it sounded like the Twins wouldn't budge on Buxton, and that's what the Mets wanted.
I can imagine the Mets just wanting Byron Buxton for Noah Syndergaard. Like, oh, we're okay with that, you know.
But the Twins have to get a starter somehow. They will make the playoffs, I think, but I don't see them going anywhere except exiting the first round again unless they address the starting pitching. They've lost 16 playoff games in a row. That's not cool.
So, I guess maybe a preview looking to next season. Nick, I guess I have your opinion on it already, is that you think the Twins, and correct me if I'm wrong, are probably going to win the division again, but once they get to the playoffs, they're done.
Yes, I expect another first-round exit. I expect roughly 93 to 94 wins, which should win the division. If not, it'll be a wild card. And I expect a first-round exit.
Now,
I would hope we could at least get one playoff win this year. At least one, but I don't know.
Now, do you think the offense will be nearly as good as it was last year?
I mean, 307 home runs, I doubt it. But I do think they're going to be at least a top 3 offense. I think I'm not saying they're the best lineup, but they're the deepest lineup. 1 through 9, there's nobody in baseball better than the Twins, depth-wise. Anybody on our team except for Arias can hit 20 home runs. Against lefties, they're probably the best lineup in baseball.
Buxton can't hit 20.
Huh?
Buxton can't hit 20.
He healthy. He hit 3 in a game against Toronto, and he did pretty decent.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the lineup, 307 home runs, second in baseball in runs, probably not, but I think it could easily be top 3 in about everything again. I really do think the lineup's going to be plenty good, and they're going to score plenty of runs again. I don't doubt that at all.
So Caleb, what's your take? how much success do you see the Twins having next season? And then after that, do you think the offense will be nearly as good?
I think Twins will probably win the division, like 95 wins or so. I don't think they'll break 100 again, but I don't think it'll be anything below 95. I'm thinking right around like 95 to 98. I think it also really depends on who we go after for a starter, because right now I think it goes Barrios. Well, once you're in July when everybody's back, assuming nobody gets hurt, I think you go Barrios, Odorizzi, Pineda, Hill, but then number 5 is a huge question mark. I do not. If the Twins ever start Randy Dobnak in a playoff game again, I may just post all of my Twin stuff on eBay and stick with my Rockies gear, because that is embarrassing to be starting Randy Dobnak for a playoff game against the New York Yankees. Like, if he progresses, sure, maybe, but at that point, no.
Have you seen his Uber rating? Come on now. Really good.
It is really good.
I think it's about the same as his ERA, like a 4-something.
He was actually pretty decent in the regular season. But yeah, I mean, starting Randy Dobnak in a playoff game is definitely not what you wanted.
No. His postseason. Oh, yeah. He only started 5 games, and he had a 1.59.
Most of them were like 4-inning starts, I think.
Yeah.
On purpose. Yeah.
But then postseason, 18.0 ERA, 2 innings pitched. Yeah, he had a sweet stash.
Yes, he did.
But the offense, I think, I agree, they'll take a step back. They won't be as dominant, but I think they'll still definitely be a top 5 offense, just because, like you had mentioned earlier, some of those guys, they probably had career years. But then also guys like Garver, he's got much more potential than we saw last year. Arise, he's not going to drive up the home runs, but I could see more RBIs and more runs scored. And Josh Donaldson, I think,
the bringer of rain.
And he does it so often at Target Field. He hits so well in Target Field. I remember when he was with Toronto, he would just come in here and blast them out of the park. And it was like, I want this guy here. Yeah. And now we have him here. I hope he continues to hit as well at Target Field and other parks as well.
Yes.
But just because of Donaldson, and we also, other than Crone and Scope, who weren't going to be starters on the current roster, we don't really lose anybody. And so I could see this team hitting around 300 home runs again, just because Kepler, he could develop even more. Rosario, he was at one point, he was in the MVP conversation. This is a very stacked offense, and I think they'll hit right about 300 home runs again. Yeah. And they'll be a top 5 offense. It'll also depend on how other teams progress too. Like, are we just going to see every single year now the home run record is being bumped up?
Yeah.
It's a trend. We said, like, wasn't this record just broke like 2 years ago by the Yankees? And
the Yankees beat it the season before this, and then they beat their own record this year, but we just hit one more than they did.
Yeah. So I could see it being just an arms race of now everybody's going to just keep bumping that up, and it's not going to mean much. But we'll see. I think we'll be top 5, probably hit around 300 home runs again.
I'd just like to say 2 really quick things to summarize. Pretty much what you said on the hitting. I do think a lot of people are expecting a lot of aggression. There should be a little bit of aggression probably. But I don't think it's going to be nearly as much as what people think. Because like you say, Kepler and Rosario could easily get better. A lot of these players are still young. And of all these core players, Sano, Polanco, Rosario, Kepler, Cruz, I'm pretty sure the only one of them who even played 135 games was Polanco. So if these guys stay healthy and don't miss a month, Rosario missed a month, Cruz missed a month, Kepler missed a month. If these guys all have an extra 15 games on their belt, that's an extra like 4 home runs from each of them. You know, that's a lot of games to miss as a total. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some injuries, but if some of those guys could play more games than they did last year, that's a bump to the offense as well. And the last thing is the Twins prospects. They're not as good as some teams, but they're not awful. And we have some good prospects. Unfortunately, our need is pitching, and we don't have that many great pitching prospects. But we got Royce Lewis, Kirilloff, Gratterall, Larnach, Cavaco, Javier. We have a lot of decent prospects. One, I want to see them call up somebody for once. Like Kirilloff is MLB ready, I think. You got to give him up. Yeah. Call him up, especially considering the outfield depth. Our outfield when healthy is very good. But the outfield depth is not that great. And plus, Buxton's probably going to get injured because it happens every year. So you need an outfielder. And you're ready to win now. So stop just storing him down there and waiting on him. Bring him up now in July and see what you have so you can potentially have him in the playoffs. And if you're not going to call him up, and even if you do, trade one of them so you can get a pitcher. Because at the end of the day, a prospect is just a prospect. They haven't proven anything yet. Trade away prospects to get proven pitching talent. If you want to win, this is the Twins' time to win now. Do that. The Astros, I know there's a lot of things with the Astros right now, but they just made 2 World Series and won one of them. They're the main reason, or one of the main reasons, they have Cole, Greinke, and Verlander. You know how they got them? In a trade, and a trade. You have to trade prospects for proven pitchers right now, and that's what they have to do if they want to win, and I hope they do it, but I'm not that confident.
I do think, pushing back a little bit, they do have some prospects in the minor leagues, like Jordan Velazovich. He posted a 2.69 ERA, and he threw a perfect game in May for Fort Myers.
Wow.
And then also, the other one I've seen is Yohan Duran, the guy we got from the Diamondbacks in the Escobar deal. He's known for his velocity. They aren't going to come up this year unless it's for – I could see Velazovich coming up for the bullpen if we're struggling in the bullpen. Maybe Duran. I've seen mentions of him. The Twins actually, I just retweeted this earlier today on the MSP Athletics account. There was a graphic of the top 100 prospects by team. The Twins are actually second with 5 top 100 prospects, and the Rays have 6. Mm-hmm. So the Twins do have some pretty good prospects. Yeah. So I think the Twins, they've got pieces. They either need to use them or ship them off for pieces that are proven, like you said.
Agreed. Like you said, Nick Gordon's been in the minors for 35 years. Like, come on, do something with him now. The dude's going to be in the nursing home on the Rochester Red Wings. Actually, is that even our affiliate anymore? We're the Chattanooga Lookouts now, I think. But
no, that was the other one that switched to Chattanooga.
Oh, New Britain Rock fans?
No, it was Chattanooga, and now it's Pensacola. So we went from the Chattanooga Lookouts to the Pensacola Blue Hawks.
That one switched like 3 times the last 6-7 years. It's kind of confusing, but so Dorton, what 1 through 5 in the AL Central? Where are the Twins land?
Oh, 1. The Royals aren't going to do anything. The White Sox, they've gotten better but they're not going to compete yet. Give them a couple of years maybe. Detroit has not done anything. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams in baseball again. Cleveland is a team that, they're kind of like a Los Angeles Dodgers type team. Their players might be hurt and they might not have a lot of players, big name guys. I mean, they have some, obviously, Lindor, Ramirez, those guys. But
Bieber.
Do you know that they're going to compete? I think the Twins are going to be 1, but I don't think Cleveland is going to be too far behind them. I definitely do see Cleveland maybe getting a wild card team.
I actually think Cleveland's going to be further behind than you're saying. They just get Kluber's now a Ranger. It sounds like they're shopping Clevenger. I just don't see them doing well.
I will say for this on the Kluber thing, yes, he's a big player. But let's remember is that he did not play very many games. No. He had played in less than 10 games, and they still won 90. Well, I don't remember how many games they won.
He wasn't the Kluber of old last year in the games he did pitch too.
Right, right. So I don't think that'll affect him as much.
Yeah. I will say, I think I know why you're saying that, Caleb, and I think you could be right. I mean, Bauer's a Red, Kluber's a Ranger, but at the end of the
Clevenger's
day,
questionable.
But they had so many injury problems last year, including Clevenger and Kluber and Carrasco and Salazar. I don't know if that dude's even in the league anymore. But the Indians, the Rays, and like the Astros and somewhat the Mets are the four teams. They can go pick a guy off. They can go grab a guy in an alley, put him on a pitching mound. He goes out there and throws a 6-inning two-earned runs. Like they just have the greatest pitching coaches or something in the league. Everybody just ends up pitching good there, and they still got Bieber, they got Clevenger, that Aaron Savali. So at the end of the day, they're going to pitch decent, and they still have Ramirez and Lindor and some hitters. I don't think they have enough hitting to compete with us, but I do think the Indians are still going to be competitive. And the White Sox are really intriguing. I think they're going to be one of the more improved teams this year, but I still don't think they have enough to compete with the Twins.
Yeah.
They also lost. Who did they lose? Puig. Puig's not there anymore.
Where did Puig go?
I don't know. I'm just looking at their roster right now, and
I honestly didn't realize they lost Puig.
Where did Puig go?
Well, Cleveland, remember, they traded him to Cincinnati. So he was on Cincinnati towards the end of the season.
No, he got traded from Cincinnati.
He was traded.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, I meant from Cincinnati to Cleveland. Sorry, to Ohio teams. I got confused there for a second.
Yeah.
From Cincinnati to Cleveland. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent right now. I don't think anyone's picked him yet.
Okay, maybe that's it.
Yeah, he's still a free agent.
Wow.
But yeah, right now they have Fremel Reyes still from that trade. Oscar Mercado was solid. And then you look at Jake Bauers is probably the other outfielder, but like that outfield is not good.
Yeah, their outfield's bad. And Jose Ramirez had an off year last year.
Yeah,
but
their infield.
Still think they're going to pitch well enough to be competitive.
They did pick up Cesar Hernandez, who will probably be their second baseman looking at it.
From the Phillies? Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, as far as the Twins go, obviously I had a lot. I didn't have to talk about it a lot because you have two Twins fans talk. They just do all the talking, and I just listen. So I definitely learned a lot, that's for sure. But, so Target Field is obviously the home field for the Minnesota Twins. If a person listening to this goes to Minnesota and they want to check out a Twins game, what are some neat things that they can do at Target Field, or maybe some things around the ballpark that they can do? Caleb, you got something, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Modest Brewing. Modest Brewing is like 2 blocks away from Target Field. They have some pretty good beer there.
Nick?
If you're from out of town, it probably isn't that interesting. But for people in Minnesota, what I think is really cool, there's a place called the Town Ball Tavern. You can eat. It's a restaurant in the stadium, but around it, it's got like pictures of town team ballparks, amateur ballparks all over the state of Minnesota. Arlington's in there. That's who I play for. So I think it's really cool. They got a big one of, I think, like Chaska. I think that one's pretty cool. I don't experiment too much with the food I eat and the vendors, but they got some interesting ones there. But they have the new Bat and Barrel Club that was new last year. That's in like right field. That's pretty cool. It's wide open up there and really big. Some people are up there the whole game. I don't know why you go to a game just to go up there, but anyways. But the stadium's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, I've sat just about everywhere there except the really, really good seats and some of the really, really bad seats. But I've sat center field, right field, first base line, third base line, left field bleachers. I've sat pretty much anywhere. And there's not many bad seats in the place. I would not suggest anybody sit in the overhang or sit right there in center field. I did that one time, like the first couple rows in center field. Any ball that was 20 feet from being a home run, I thought was gone because you can't even see like the last 20 feet of center field. So I wouldn't suggest that. I sit in the left field bleachers normally just because they're like somewhat decently priced and you can see the whole field and get a home run ball if you want. I've never got one, but I suggest those seats because they're pretty moderately priced and they're decent seats. That's where I sat for the playoff game. Where did you sit, Caleb?
I sat third deck, like right above first base.
Okay.
Or not first, right above home plate. Yeah. First base was different game.
That playoff game, I mean, we lost, which kind of sucks, but it was really fun. It was a cool experience. I had never been to a playoff game before. The Homer Hankies, which were red this year, I thought were actually cooler because you could see a bunch of
towels. They weren't hankies.
They were pretty much Homer towels. But I was standing 95% of that game. Everybody stood for like the first inning, which is really awesome. And then most of the stadium sat down. There were some sections that stood for a while. Then pretty much everyone was down except the one dude directly in front of me did not sit the entire game. Not kidding, except for maybe a minute and a half. So I was pretty much standing the whole game. And the left field bleachers, if they're full, everybody just kind of scoots in, and all of a sudden my seat I was supposed to be in like seat 7, and all of a sudden I'm at like seat 4 because everybody just scoots in. But I had to stand the entire game but a minute and a half for that playoff game because the dude in front of me didn't sit.
I will say I really like the stadium because I went to Twins opening day this last season and I caught a ball in batting practice. So I am a fan of that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. I've never got one. Batting practice, game, anything.
Well, I'll give you a tutorial. I've had my fair share of foul balls and
granted, now I don't really care too much unless I want to catch like I don't want the Yankees to get a home run off us, but I would love to catch one and just frickin' chuck that thing back so far. Screw the Yankees.
I've caught a couple, but they were all while I was working, and so I wasn't allowed to keep them. I had to give them to the nearest kid, so that kind of sucked. But it's still kind of cool.
Cruz is going to hit 100 home runs this year, so I'm going to get his 500th home run. Yeah.
There you go.
Is he going to do it with or without roids?
We'll leave that undisclosed.
Breaking news. According to sources, Nelson Cruz has been taking steroids over the offseason, projected to hit 100 home runs.
Nelson Cruz has been busted for steroids in the past. Yeah, it was before he was really good, so I think most people don't even realize it or forget about it. It's just kind of funny because like Bonds, everybody knows because he took roids and he hit 73 dingers. Cruz took roids, then he got better afterwards. Like after he already got caught, he got better.
Well, that's all the stuff that we have to talk about today. We're approaching 2 hours here. I definitely did not think we were going to be talking this long, but nonetheless, it's always a good time. Caleb, I want to thank you for coming on and being a guest on our episode. Definitely have you back in the future. I think that'd be really cool. I'm pretty sure Nick would be okay with that, and if he isn't, too bad.
Let's take a bedtime story now.
Oh, let me pull up the bedtime stories.
Awesome. Nick, again, good job coming. You didn't want to load manage, so that's good.
No load management today.
No management today. So as we reach the end of the podcast, do either of you guys have anything that you would like to bring up before we sign off? Caleb?
Row the boat, Skyuma, and go Gophers.
Yes.
There you go. Nick, you got anything?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. As always, everybody, please share this podcast to everybody that you know. Retweet it, share it, do whatever you can to get a lot of noise out there for us because we want to try and get a lot of followers, a lot of views. Anything that you can would be great. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow myself, Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. For Mr. Doetkott, it is going to be at Doetkott or Doetkott, if that might be easier for you. And Caleb Sipe, where can they find you on Twitter?
Well, there's a couple places you can find me, actually. You can find me at Caleb Sipe 36. That's CalebSipe 36. Or you can find me at Sidelines UMN, or you can find me at that's me.
Good to know. I think I follow
you can find me and a couple other people at MSP Athletics.
Well, there you go.
And if anyone out here is a random UCF fan, I am currently filling in for at Sidelines UCF.
Well, there you go. You got that going for you too. Well, Kale, like I said, thank you for coming on again. Did you have a quick bedtime story you wanted to tell us, like really quick?
Yeah, I found a picture book that I can read to you real
Why
quick.
don't you read us a page? Give us a page from that.
Oh, it's just pictures with like 2-word lines.
Okay, well, give us like 3 pages then.
All right. Good night, Dorton. I don't want to go to sleep. That's enough now. Good night, Dorton.
I love it. I love it. I really do. That's awesome. Anyways, thank you guys for coming on. It was a really, really solid episode. Definitely look forward to next week. We have some stuff in the works. I will be recording shortly with a San Francisco Giants fans. We do a Giants podcast. And I will be recording with one of my buddies for a Colorado Rockies podcast. And also be on the lookout for that NHL one, too, with Ryan Foster as well. So, like I said, for about the 75th time, thank you guys for coming on. It was a great time and cannot wait till next time. Caleb, thank you for joining us. As for Caleb Sipe and Nicholas Doetkott, I am Lucas Dorton, and we are out.